Hi everybody, Ben here. Thanks again for tuning in. Well, off the back of a big month in June, there's certainly a number of things worth noting out there at the moment. The confidence post-election has continued all the way through, and the property space seems to be one part of the economy which really starts to have a new and invigorating sense of energy out there at the moment. And it would seem that with some of the things that have come out over the last couple of weeks, it is creating somewhat of the perfect storm in terms of that real estate space. A couple of those key things: the RBA reduced the cash rate. Now, whilst this is great in terms of the property space for making cash a little bit more available for people, obviously there's some things going on in the back end of the economy, which is the reason why they dropped that, to stimulate that area of the economy. Then what we've also had is we've had clearance rates which have bounced back up, and that needle seems to really be tipping well into the 60% zones over the last couple of weeks. And this is interesting because if we go back a couple of months earlier, the clearance rates were down at record lows for something that we'd never seen that low for this side of a decade. Now, on top of all of these things, the third layer, which is certainly stimulating our part of the market, is APRA have officially come out and released their grip off all the banks out there at the moment. So what that essentially means is some of their lending criteria or their serviceability calculator criteria has been loosened, and then the byproduct of the low cash rate has been passed on to those buyers. So we were working out some of the numbers the other day, and what this means for some of the buying pool out there is they're probably going to be accessible for an additional up to 20% more cash available to them. Now, on top of all of this, we've got record low stock supply out there. So there's just not enough homes on the market to feed the appetite of the buying market that's out there. Now, if you are looking at doing something and putting the house on the market, it would obviously be a great time to do that well in advance of this spring rush. Again, we're forecasting that probably some of the best-selling season we're going to see this year would be anywhere from now up until maybe the end of September. We do feel that there is a bit of stock going to come on during that springtime, and essentially what can happen then is it will dilute that buy pool, which is great for buyers. It'll give them a little bit more choice. Not so great for sellers because it just means that some of those pricings might actually come back just slightly. We don't suspect that prices are going to go in a negative fashion. In actual fact, for a number of people out there across most economic platforms are expecting this market to potentially move anywhere between 1 up to about 3% over the next 12 months, which is going to be interesting to watch. Now, the key thing though, if you are going to be putting your homes to the market, it's easy to get caught up in the excitement of all this movement and activity right now, but there are a few key things you need to look at. One being the timeline, which we just mentioned. The other thing is presentation. Presentation is still key. I know we bang on about this a fair amount all the time, but you cannot beat a home that's presented well, which becomes a turnkey purchase for buyers. You get more people involved and more people bidding on them. We had a great example of this down in View Street in Annandale only a week ago. We ended up issuing something to the tune of 15 contracts. We had 8 registered on the night of the actual auction, and this exceeded the owner's expectations by an additional $100,000. It was a good home, it was a good family home that was lived in for 10 years. It had your standard bruises and bumps that any home would have after being lived in for 10 years, but the owners invested the time and energy and some money into this home, getting it prepared for the market, and it certainly paid off in strong dividends. Now, out and about in the community, I hope you've been enjoying the Heroes in the Hood. This month we're releasing Jody McGregor's. Jody McGregor is a well-known, almost right across Sydney as being a great florist in Sydney. I hope you enjoy watching through that. I certainly did. I certainly learned a lot more about flowers than what I knew before. Anyway, that's it from me. Thanks again for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you out and about. Bye for now.